Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for an embargoed news conference on Bill 16, Red Tape Reduction Status Amendment Act 2024. My name is Nikki Gokwa, and I'm the Press Secretary for Mr. Dale Nally, Minister of Service Alberta on Red Tape Reduction. A reminder that information you are about to hear is under embargoed until Minister Dale Nally tables Bill 16 in the House at approximately 3 p.m. We will begin with remarks from Minister Nally, followed by remarks from Minister Amery, Alberta's Minister of Justice and Solicitor General. Following that, there will be remarks from Dr. Krebs. Following that, we will take your questions to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. Each reporter is limited to one question, one follow-up. Now I'd like to turn things over to Minister Nally.
Thank you, Nikki. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to speak to you today about Bill 16, the Red Tape Reduction Statutes Amendment Act 2024. Bill 16 is the 8th red tape reduction bill we've brought forward since 2019. Every one of the previous 7 bills has saved Albertans and Alberta businesses time and money, making our province a more affordable place to live and to do business. But I think today's bill is special because of its timing. In 2019, we said we'd cut red tape by 1/3 in 4 years. It was a bold promise, one that would take a lot of work. But back in February, we celebrated reaching that major milestone. Since 2019, Alberta's government has brought in more than 700 high-impact initiatives. For every regulatory requirement added since 2019, 4 have been eliminated. The most important number is the $2.75 billion that our work has saved Albertans and job creators. So with all that said, it might sound like today's bill is arriving late to the party, but if anything, it's starting a new party. Bill 16 not only represents a first step forward into a new phase of red tape reduction for our government, it also shows that we haven't slowed our stride. In Canada, we are leaders in red tape reduction, not followers. The top marks we've received in recent years from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is proof of that. The billions of dollars we've saved Albertans and businesses is also proof of that. And once again, our legislation is proof of that. If passed, Bill 16 would amend 12 pieces of legislation across 10 different ministries. This includes important amendments that would increase access to justice, support time and cost savings for Albertans, improve enforcement of regulatory offences, and support increased digital justice services in the Alberta Court of Justice. Joining me here today to talk more about these proposed changes is my colleague, the Minister of Justice. He will give you more details in a few minutes. The changes he has added to our bill will modernize and make our justice system more accessible, and I look forward to tabling them in the legislature today. Another set of changes that I'm excited about involve our friends in transportation and economic corridors. If approved, these amendments will empower our government to make regulations to enable pilot projects that would test new and exciting transportation technologies. This could mean allowing golf carts or ATVs to operate on specific roads as long as they do so in a manner that's safe for them and everyone else on the road. It could also include testing such technologies as autonomous vehicles. As you know, Premier Smith has asked me to work with private industry to establish a network of hydrogen vehicle stations in Alberta. I've already told my colleague, Minister Dreeshen, if our bill passes, I'll be very curious about the technologies that these pilot projects will end up exploring. A big part of red tape reduction is finding ways to regulate more efficiently in ways that focus on the practical outcomes themselves rather than the steps or actions needed to achieve these outcomes. I know we often talk about how red tape reduction saves time and money, but responsible, compassionate, and targeted changes can also help Albertans get through difficult periods in their lives. Through this bill, we're also making sure vulnerable Albertans have access to the program supports they need. Our friends at Seniors, Community and Social Services are proposing an amendment that the Income and Employment Supports Act to help ensure individuals fleeing abuse and living in a family violence shelter receive a more appropriate level of financial support that accommodates their family size. This is a change that ensures those escaping family violence are provided with a level of funding that is more responsive to their needs. In addition, eliminating separate program policies, processes, and rates for clients based on where they are living would simplify the administration of the program and reduce administrative burden for shelter operators and frontline staff. Another set of changes that I'm proud to have in this bill would benefit public libraries, which are a vital part of healthy, thriving communities across Alberta. The changes we're proposing would increase the number of communities allowed in their intermunicipal board from 3 to 4. This will give libraries more flexibility around regional collaboration and make it easier for them to operate and provide high-quality services to Albertans in rural areas. I'm happy to include these changes in our bill on behalf of Municipal Affairs Minister, and I know that they're being proposed in response to requests from Alberta's library boards and their associations. Lastly, I'll close today by speaking to some amendments that are of great importance to me. As the minister responsible for oversight of the gaming and cannabis industries, I know that both sectors generate significant economic activity in Alberta, and they create new jobs. That's why I'm proposing to clarify the authority of Service Alberta and Red Tape Production to make policy decisions related to alcohol, liquor, and gaming sectors when there's a direct impact on government revenues. We would also further clarify that government, as well as Alberta Gaming, Liquor, and Cannabis, has the authority to conduct and manage gaming activities in the province. And as minister responsible for Red Tape Production, I'm also including amendments in the bill that would solidify our ongoing commitment to reducing red tape. I mentioned earlier that we're now in the next phase of red tape production. We've hit our target of reducing red tape by 1/3, and we don't want to let that slip away. All ministries have committed much effort to implementing new, more efficient ways of doing things and developing new, leaner regulations that consider costs to Albertans at the forefront. Moving forward, red tape production will continue to evolve by focusing even more sharply on bringing tangible benefits and improved service delivery for Albertans. Our proposed amendments would ensure that red tape production remains a priority for Alberta's government and reflects the way that we do business. We would prohibit any net new increase of regulatory requirements above our current benchmark. Additional amendments will enhance our commitment to annual reporting to Albertans on the work of red tape, demonstrating our government's commitment to transparency in our reporting to Albertans. And of course, we will continue to engage Alberta's businesses and industries to seek their recommendations on how we can reduce red tape. And we always encourage Albertans to continue sending in their ideas on where we can cut red tape by going to our website at alberta.ca/cut red tape. Thank you. I will now call on my colleague, Minister Amory, to say a few words.
Good morning, and thank you to Minister Nally for that introduction. It is my pleasure to join you today as we unveil Bill 16, the Red Tape Reduction Statutes Amendment Act 2024. This legislation represents a collaborative effort across various ministries, and it is a critical step forward in streamlining processes and making our system more accessible in Alberta. Several of the proposed amendments within this legislation fall under the Provincial Offences Procedures Act and one under the Youth Justice Act. These amendments would increase access to justice and support time and cost savings for Albertans. The amendments would also improve enforcement and court services and support additional digital justice services for Albertans. Virtual court sessions in the Court of Justice for regulatory offenses stand as a cornerstone of these reforms, revolutionizing the way that Albertans engage within our justice system. Virtual court sessions would allow Albertans to participate in proceedings regardless of their location, saving them both time and money. Albertans would be able to receive electronic notifications as well. I can assure you that options like phone, mail, and in-person appearances will continue to be provided, ensuring those who cannot use digital services still have a means of engaging with the court. This transition would speed up trials by reducing paper and waste, increasing speed of communication, and allowing reliable digital records to be generated, submitted, and retained. Equally important is our effort to streamline processes for Albertans facing violation tickets. Effectively communicating alternatives to court appearances and accepting written requests for penalty reductions would support individuals to resolve their disputes swiftly and cost-effectively, freeing up valuable court resources for the more serious cases and improving access to justice. To ensure that Albertans rarely need to appear in court to initially respond to a ticket, amendments are being made to both the Provincial Offences Procedures Act and the Youth Justice Act. These amendments signify a commitment to enhancing Albertans' access to justice by saving time and reducing financial burdens on everyone. Finally, I am honored to introduce the Krebs Amendment to the Provincial Offences Procedures Act. Named after Corey Krebs, a young man paralyzed in a tragic accident involving a commercial truck, this amendment addresses a critical issue in our legal system: the 6-month limitation period for laying charges for regulatory offenses. By the time the investigation into this incident was complete, the 6-month limitation period had passed, and the ability to hold the driver responsible for Mr. Krebs's injury accountable was lost. Extending the limitation period from 6 months to 12 months from the date the alleged offense occurs will allow for a more comprehensive investigation into serious and complex regulatory offenses. Cody Krebs's story deserves to be recognized and underscores the need to continue improving our justice system, something that his father, Dr. Gordon Krebs, has been tirelessly advocating for. Dr. Krebs exemplifies the resilience and determination of Albertans to see justice done. His dedication has been instrumental in shaping the amendment that we introduced today, and I deeply appreciate his advocacy. It reflects the spirit of collaboration and community engagement that drives our efforts. Dr. Krebs, thank you. We are honored to have you here with us today. I am now pleased to invite Dr. Krebs to the podium to share his insights and experiences firsthand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In July 2022, my son was hit by a semi-truck that blew through a stop sign at a T intersection at a major intersection near Caroline, Alberta. The RCMP assured us that proper charges would be laid. Much to our dismay, after 2 trips to court, we were informed by the Justice Department that the RCMP had failed to meet the statute of limitations on filing the charges. They had 6 months to file, but they missed it by 9 days. Thus, the failure to meet the statute meant automatic dismissal of all charges. From this experience, my family learned, in the worst way, that the statute of limitations could prevent us from getting true justice for our son's accident. Since going through this experience, our family has advocated for the measures that would prevent our neighbors from ever having to go through the same injustice that we have endured. The extension of a 6-month statute to a 12-month statute is a great first step to uphold victims' rights and to hopefully prevent another family from going through what we've gone through, and also to several other families in the province that have already gone through similar. I want to thank the Justice Department for listening to our family, to families like mine, and taking this first step. My hope is that from our family's experience and through this legislation, the legislative change, there will be similar efforts by the RCMP and law enforcement on getting charges filed correctly and helping families like mine seek justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Krebs. I'd just like to acknowledge the presence also of Minister Nathan Newdorf and Minister Todd Lowen. Now we'll take your question. We'll start here in the room, and then we'll go to the phone lines. Remember, you get 1 question and 1 follow-up. Let's go with Matthew Black, Catherine, Janet French, then we'll go with the rest next. Sorry.
I guess I'm starting. My question is for Minister Amory. I just wanted to ask about all this digitization of the court stuff. Does that mean we'll start to see more trials access through video software like WebEx and whatnot?
It certainly is the intention to move towards making sure that Albertans can access their courts in every which way. This is an enabling process. This will allow us to work with our partners in the courts, with the Chief Justices, and develop programs that work with their needs and supporting them in mind as well. The intention is to introduce the Act to the Provincial Offences Procedures Amendment Act and allow us to open up the door for additional negotiations and discussions with our courts. But yes, the intention will be to make things virtual, more accessible, and more streamlined through technological means.
Is there a timeline for when we might see all that happen?
Our Justice Digital program is ongoing. We've been working on it for a number of years. We've made some tremendous progress in digitizing the courts in many different ways. We'll continue to build on that work that we've done, and we'll move forward. Stay tuned. It's coming very quickly.
Stephanie?
Yeah, and Minister Lowen, actually, so in the public lands amendment, some of these proposed amendments is about the first step to modernize public land rules to encourage business development on public lands. What kind of businesses are we looking at? What's the plan?
Yeah, so there's a lot of businesses that have dispositions on public land. I believe there's about 45,000 in Alberta right now. And those dispositions, about a couple thousand a year are renewed each year. And this process will allow that renewal to be more streamlined and efficient. A lot of these are multi-year, they are just continue on and on, these dispositions year after year. And so to have these companies fill out a new renewal form each year to do for the same, when there's virtually been no change to that disposition. This will allow that to be streamlined so that they'll be able to access that quicker. It'll save them time in those renewals and also government time in processing those renewals.
And in the absence of Minister Grecian, I guess I can ask Minister Nally. So on this transportation and economic corridors, allowing off-highway vehicles like ATVs and golf carts, so who's asking for this? What kind of situations would those type of vehicles be allowed on roadways?
Well, so to be clear, this is about being proactive. And so we're putting in legislation that will give regulation-making authority to the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors so that he can bring forward these pilots. So we're being proactive by bringing it in so that we can move with speed when the opportunity is there. Because when these entrepreneurs, let's say, are looking for opportunities to pilot, we want to be able to say we're ready to go. So that's what this is doing. And it could be anything from ATVs to autonomous vehicles. I hope there's some hydrogen ones in there as well.
Are hydrogen not allowed on the streets right now?
No, I just meant in terms of an autonomous vehicle.
Okay, oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, Janet?
Sticking with Minister Nally,
Yeah.
I just want to talk about some of the AGLC changes giving you some more authority, including to be able to make regulation-making authority regarding liquor prices.
Yeah.
So why do you want the power to set liquor prices?
Well, really, we already have that. In fact, not just our government, previous governments as well. It's always been the elected officials that determine any type of tax or markup increase. And so the reality is we're just having this amendment go forward so that we can have the legislation and regulation reflect what happens in reality. Because really, the AGLC is not going to be increasing liquor prices without engagement from the minister.
Okay, so more of a I-dotting,
Clarifying,
T-crossing.
sure,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. And the other thing that came up in the tech briefing was the issue of removing the requirement for people working in cannabis stores to have a criminal record check.
Yeah.
What's driving that, and how concerned are you that, that might have had a deterring effect for people applying for those jobs if they knew they had to go through a criminal record check? How can we be reassured that anyone working in those jobs doesn't have some criminal background?
The fact that, a couple of reasons. I mean, the AGLC was spending 1,300 hours a week in going through those criminal record checks, and they rejected 0.0015% of the applications. And so we were spending an incredible amount of time on that. And again, these are for cashier level positions. So in liquor, which is a regulated product, we don't require criminal record checks. And in cannabis, we just wanted to align the cannabis retailers along the same lines as liquor. But to be clear, the one difference that we are keeping in place for cannabis is we've said all management employees have to go through that criminal record check, but not for cashiers.
Marc-Antoine Leblanc, Council Canada. I just wonder, how did you get the number of $1.5 billion savings? What's your calculation?
Most of that savings is from the AGLC piece, just from the efficiencies that we realize there. Yeah.
And, once passed, how long is it going to take for Albertans to effectively see all the differences?
Well, I mean, for some of them, they'll see fairly quickly. Others will take a while. A lot of what we're putting through is enabling legislation that will allow us to do things down the road. So there's a lot of enabling legislation that we won't see for a while. Some things we'll see pretty quickly. Yeah.
Lisa?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Minister about kids in casinos.
Yeah.
So the way I'm picturing it in my head when I walk into a casino, right at the front door, they ID you before you can enter the building, right?
Yeah.
So what this would do is make it so that you can bring your kids, say, to the restaurant or a show or something like that within
Yes.
that premises, right?
Yeah.
But wouldn't that then require like more posted security at various places in the building so that kids aren't going back to the VLT area? Or
Well, they already monitor those entrances already, and so this wouldn't increase the monitoring. But here, this was brought to us. It was actually the chief from Enoch that brought this forward on behalf of their casino, because they aren't just a standalone casino; they're a resort, and they're a resort facility. It has hotel rooms, has an ice surface. And you could have hockey teams that can't go have lunch as a team and have to leave the resort premises. And so they're losing economic opportunity. So the chief said to us, look, let us allow children and families to be able to walk through the casino to attend family-orientated events like restaurants. And I can tell you, as a hockey dad, I can relate to not having to carry my son's hockey equipment when it's minus 40 out to the parking lot and then go find a restaurant. So this is just about making life easier and encouraging a little more economic activity on First Nations. But to be clear, you have to apply for this endorsement, and it wouldn't be applicable to anyone that is a standalone casino. So if it's a standalone casino with no other resort amenities, there would be no reason for the families to have to go in and use the restaurant.
Jonathan Benjamin.
Okay. So the Red Tape Reduction Statutes Amendment Act is making the court system more digitally accessible, or intends to once passed. Why did the Alberta government feel this was important to address?
Sure. Let me,
Well, I think, we've all learned over the past few years how technology has made things work a little bit better. The pandemic has taught us to find ways to access our courts, access other things remotely and through technology. And for the most part, absent some bumps along the way, we've become pretty good at providing those services to Albertans digitally and electronically. So this is one way, another component, an added feature, not a replacement, but intended to give Albertans one more way of accessing their courts. The importance of doing that is that we know that there are people all across this province, and we want to make sure that we address issues like transportation, for example. We want to save Albertans time and money. We don't necessarily need Albertans to come down to the courthouse on an initial ticket appearance, for example, when they can do it remotely or online. And I think that's an important step forward in making things more accessible for everyone.
Okay, and my follow-up question would likely be for Minister Nally. So you've spoken about how the Alberta government's cut red tape and is being recognized as a leader with red tape reduction. What do you think the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is going to say with these red tape changes?
I think they will appreciate our leadership. We have demonstrated that we're a leader in Canada on red tape reduction. They have given us the highest score in the country last year. It was an A, so I think they'll be very pleased by this. They'll be pleased that we're continuing to push forward red tape reductions, but they'll also be particularly pleased that we are going to be enshrining the principles of red tape reduction in regulation. Because right now, a lot of those requirements are in policy, and if this passes, then we'll be enshrining them in both regulation and legislation, and just creates and adds to the permanency of the culture of red tape reduction. So they'll be very pleased.
Thank you.
Sinead?
Yeah, thank you so much for taking my question, and I apologize it's off topic from today's announcement, but it's for you, Minister Nally. I wanted to ask about the 4-liter bulk jugs of vodka that are showing up in liquor stores across Alberta.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns about selling this quantity of hard liquor in a container that's long been associated with things like milk or distilled water?
Well, I would suggest not only is there some concerns, but I would say that's actually one of the reasons why we need to move forward with passing this bill, because having this bill pass would mean that I would have authority to bring forward responsible pricing in alcohol. Because I think we can all agree that when we see a 4-liter plastic jug of vodka for, I think, $48.99, that's not very responsible. So if this bill passes, I'll be able to respond to that very quickly.
Yeah, there were a number of concerns raised online about things like the provisions that liquor sold in Canada must be subject to under Food and Drugs Act and Safe Food for Canadians Act. I guess, does this jug in particular, does it meet these requirements? Does it call for the need for perhaps a review of how liquor is being sold in our province?
It is in compliance with all of our rules and regulations, yeah. I think what is not in compliance with is the spirit of Albertans, which is we believe in responsible pricing. And that's where I think it goes afoul, is this responsible pricing. And so if this passes, I'll definitely be taking a look at that.
Michelle Belafontaine?
Just to follow up on what Shaylan said, so you are going to do something about this and look at it?
I would suggest that a 4-liter jug of vodka for $48.99 is not responsible in my mind. Now, I just became aware of this, so we're going to be talking to our officials, but I would not be surprised to see us moving forward on something like this if this bill passes.
And I wanted to ask about counseling therapists,
Yeah.
and there's going to be changes there. And I'm wondering again why, it does seem to be just counseling therapists, right? But why not addictions counselors and child and youth counselors?
Well, at this point, we're actually not committing to anything, because if you recall, I think it was back in 2018, the motion was set in place to have 2 regulators in this space. And of course, obviously, it can be done more efficiently through one. So we'll be taking a look at having one regulator for everyone in that space. But again, we're not there yet. All we're doing is we're repealing Section 29 so that we can move forward with bringing in counselors under the CAP. Forgot the acronym, but you know what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah. But why not counseling therapists? So far, it just sounds like it's
It may be. We haven't made those decisions. That's page 10, and we're still on page 2.
Graham?
Yeah, Minister, just the overall idea of cutting red tape.
Yeah.
The government's adding red tape for something like renewables, a lot of red tape when it comes to building solar and wind farms. So when a bill is brought in, do they talk to you specifically and say, look, what do you think of this? We're adding red tape. Do they actually look at you specifically and say, are we adding red tape, too much red tape?
If they don't, I promise you, I ask them a cabinet. And so my colleagues are chuckling, because this is a constant conversation at cabinet, is I ask them to speak to how this impacts red tape. So it is, I can say with confidence that there is a culture of red tape within our government, and we continually have a laser-like focus on eliminating it. But again, if we go back to where we started, we never said that we're against all red tape. Listen, we all like clean air, clean water, and there are some regulations that will always be required. What our issue is with the duplication and unnecessary red tape, and that's what we're targeting.
The $2.75 billion you mentioned in savings.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you touched on this, but can we see, is there a breakdown, dollar by dollar?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest example I give you right now, and if you want more detailed, certainly reach out to my office, happy to provide it, but the biggest one was on the co-mingling of abandoned wells. So when a producer would look for approval at the AER, they could co-mingle their wells, but when they went to abandon them, then they couldn't co-mingle them, so they had to do everything twice, 3 times. So by allowing the co-mingling of abandoned wells, it has saved industry over $500 million. Now, that is the biggest cost savings. That's $500 million they could reinvest back into their business. They could hire more Albertans, that type of thing. But if you're looking for even more specifics than that, I reach out to my press secretary. We'll be happy to get that for you.
Sorry, I have a follow-up.
Sorry, I have a question in the back.
Dean Twardley from Global News. So I just want to clarify about the vodka thing.
Yeah.
So the issue you have is with the pricing, not with the form factor of the container.
I would suggest I have a problem with all of it. Yeah.
And that's what you're going to be looking into?
If this bill passes, then this is exactly the type of thing that I will look into. I don't think a 4-liter plastic jug of vodka adds to the quality distillery industry that we have in this province. I don't think that it is responsible pricing to price it like that. Yeah.
Let me go to the phone lines. Operator, do you have anyone?
We had a follow-up right here.
Follow-up? Yeah.
Oh, Justice.
The question is for Minister Nally. I just want to clarify. Okay, you said that this change to give you the power to change or direct AGLC's liquor prices, you already have that, so this doesn't really change that. AGLC already has to go to you for approval on pricing changes. So what is changing here that will make it easier for you to fix the 4-liter bottles?
Well, we are changing the alignment of the regulation and legislation to reflect what happens in practice. That is in essence what we're doing. So if we don't pass this, then it will be the AGLC that will be looking into responsible pricing and not me.
Any other questions on the floor?
There are no questions on the phone at this time.
Now, that concludes our question and answer portion. Well, that wraps up the things for today. Thank you all for attending. One final reminder that everything is embargoed until Minister Nally tables Bill 16 in the legislature. Thank you.